the plane's engines roaring like an angry beast, cutting through the clouds at 30,000 feet. And there I am, squeezed into a middle seat, my heart pounding, not from the turbulence, but from the sting of words that cut deeper than any storm. My sister, Emily, the one person who knew me inside out, who shared my childhood secrets and late-night whispers, leans over with that sly smile she always wore when she wanted to twist the knife just a little. "Oh, come on, Sarah," she says, her voice dripping with mock sympathy, loud enough for the row behind us to hear. "Still scared of flying? After all these years? You, the big Air Force hotshot, please. If things go wrong up here, don't look to me to save you." Laughter bubbles from her lips, sharp and cold, echoing in the tight cabin like a slap across my face. The passengers glance our way, some chuckling awkwardly, others pretending not to notice. My cheeks burn, that old familiar shame rising like bile in my throat. But what they don't know, what she doesn't know in that moment, is that her little jab is about to become the spark that ignites everything. Because in the next heartbeat, the sky turns on us, and her laughter dies in a gasp as the world starts to fall apart. I close my eyes for a second, trying to push down the hurt, the way her words always manage to find the cracks in my armor. We've been like this since we were kids. Emily, the golden girl, the one who breezed through life with her charm and quick wit, always one step ahead, always making me feel like the shadow trailing behind. Me? Sarah Thompson, the quiet one who buried her dreams in flight manuals and simulator hours, trading family dinners for cockpit drills. I thought joining the Air Force would change that, would finally make her see me as more than the little sister who tagged along. But no. Even after I earned my wings, flew missions that tested every ounce of my soul, she still found ways to poke at the doubts I tried so hard to bury. "Fighter pilot, you?" She'd tease at holidays, her eyes sparkling with that mix of envy and dismissal. "Bet you spent more time throwing up in the back seat than actually flying." And I'd laugh it off because what else could I do? She was family, blood, the one who'd held my hand through Mom's funeral, promised we'd always have each other's backs. Or so I believed. But now, here we are on this godforsaken flight from New York to London, a girls' trip she insisted on, her way of making up for missing my promotion party last month. I should have said no. Should have seen the trap in her overly sweet invitations, the way she'd booked the cheap seats just to keep it real. The cabin air is thick with recycled breath and the faint scent of stale coffee from the cart rolling by. Kids whine in the rows ahead, a businessman snores softly to my left, and Emily chatters onto the guy across the aisle about her latest promotion at the ad agency, her voice bright and effortless. She's in her element, drawing him in with stories of glamorous clients and rooftop parties, while I sit silent, flipping through a magazine I can't focus on. Every word she says feels like a reminder. She's the star, I'm the extra. And then it comes, that casual dig, tossed out like yesterday's trash. "Sarah, here's the real adventurer, though," she says to the stranger, winking at me. Or at least she thinks so. Spent years in the Air Force pretending to be Top Gun. But look at her now, white-knuckling the armrest like it's her lifeline. The man chuckles politely, and I force a smile, but inside something cracks. Why does she do this? Why can't she just let me be? The plane dips suddenly, a minor jolt that sends a ripple of murmurs through the cabin. Emily rolls her eyes. "See? Nothing to it. You're such a worrywart, Sarah." I bite my tongue, staring out the window at the endless blue, willing my pulse to slow. But deep down, I know this trip was a mistake. We'd argued just before takeoff, her pushing for this spontaneous getaway, me dragging my feet because work was piling up, because I needed space from her endless comparisons. "Live a little?" she'd said at the gate, linking her arm through mine like we were kids again. "Or are you too busy playing soldier to have fun?" And I'd caved because that's what sisters do, right? We forgive, we forget. Or at least I do. But as the seatbelt sign flickers on with a soft ding, and the first real shudder rocks the fuselage, I wonder if this time, the universe is about to remind her that some games aren't worth playing. That shudder wasn't nothing. It started small, like the plane was clearing its throat, but then it built, a low groan from the depths of the machine that made my stomach twist. I've felt turbulence before. Hell, I've flown through sandstorms that blinded the horizon and thunderheads that swallowed squadrons whole. But this felt different, off, like the bird was fighting something it couldn't name. Emily notices too, her chatter faltering as she grips her armrest. "Okay, that's a bit much," she mutters, shooting me a sideways glance, half apology, half challenge. I don't say anything, just listen, my old instincts kicking in unbidden. The hum of the engines shifts, a subtle whine creeping in, and then, crack, the overhead bins rattle like they're about to burst. A scream pierces the air from the back, followed by a chorus of gasps. The captain's voice crackles over the intercom, calm but clipped. Folks, we've hit some unexpected weather. Please remain seated and fastened. Unexpected weather? At this altitude? My mind races, piecing it together. The way the plane listed slightly to the left, the faint acrid smell seeping from the vents. No, this isn't weather. This is trouble. And in that frozen moment, as Emily's hand brushes mine, accidental, tense, I feel the weight of every unsaid word between us. The mockery from minutes ago hangs heavy, but so does the love, tangled and bruised. What if this is it? What if her last memory of me is that stupid joke? I push the thought away, focusing on the now, the sway, the rising panic in the air. Little do we know, this flight is about to become a nightmare none of us signed up for, and the sister who just tore me down is going to need the very skills she ridiculed to see the dawn. But how did we get here, really? To this fragile thread stretched across the Atlantic? It all started years ago in a small town where dreams were as fragile as the promises we made under the stars. Those stars we used to count from the backyard swing set, Emily and I, back when the world was simple, and our biggest worry was who got the last cookie from Mom's jar. God, I miss those days. The air thick with summer fireflies, the creak of the chains as we swung higher and higher, daring each other to touch the sky. I'll be a pilot one day, I'd whisper, my 8-year-old voice full of wonder, eyes glued to the contrails streaking overhead. Emily, 10 and already bossy as ever, would snort and push me with her foot. Pilots are for boys, dummy. I'll be the one flying, in style, like a movie star. We'd laugh until our sides hurt, collapsing in a heap of tangled limbs and shared secrets. That was us, inseparable, unbreakable. Or so it seemed. Our town was the kind of place where everyone knew your business before you did. Maplewood, Ohio, with its white picket fences and Friday night lights that lit up the whole valley. Dad worked the mill, long shifts that left him smelling of sawdust and exhaustion, and Mom held down the diner, her smiles as warm as her apple pie. They poured everything into us girls, scraping by to send us to summer camps and buy those secondhand bikes we raced down Elm Street. Emily was the spark. Cheerleader captain by middle school, valedictorian in high school, the one teachers called destined for greatness. Me? I was the dreamer, nose in books about Amelia Earhart and the Wright brothers, sketching cockpits on my notebooks during math class. But Emily made it look easy. Her confidence a shield that drew people in while I hung back. Content in her glow. Then came the shift, subtle at first. Like a crack in the foundation you don't notice until the house starts leaning. Puberty hit Emily like a spotlight. She bloomed into this poised beauty with waves of auburn hair and a laugh that turned heads. Boys trailed her like puppies, and she'd regale me with tales of stolen kisses behind the bleachers, her eyes alight with mischief. I'd listen, envious but thrilled, living vicariously through her adventures. "One day you'll have your own stories, Sarah," she'd say, braiding my hair. "You're the smart one, remember? The one who'll go places no one else can." It felt like truth then, a promise sealed with pinky swears. But as high school wore on, her light started to cast shadows. She'd borrow my homework just this once, then ace the test without a thank you. Invite me to parties only to ditch me for the popular crowd, leaving me nursing a soda in the corner. "Lighten up," she'd hiss when I confronted her. "Not everything's about you. I swallowed it all because what choice did I have?" She was my big sister, my guide through the chaos of growing up. When Mom got sick, that quiet diagnosis of cancer that stole the color from our home, Emily stepped up, or so it seemed. She organized fundraisers, rallied the town with her charisma, while I sat by Mom's bed, holding her hand through the chemo fog, memorizing the rise and fall of her breaths. Emily's visits were whirlwind affairs, hugs and pep talks that left Mom smiling. But I saw the strain in her eyes when Emily left, the way she'd whisper to me, "Your sister's got the gift of words, Sarah, but you have the heart." It broke me a little, that divide, knowing Emily shone brighter in the spotlight, but I was the steady one, the rock. When Mom passed just after my 16th birthday, the funeral was Emily's show, her eulogy so poetic it had the whole church in tears. I stood beside her, numb, clutching the program like a lifeline, wondering if anyone noticed how my hands shook. In the aftermath, we clung tighter, or tried to. Dad buried himself in work, leaving us to navigate the empty house with its echoes of laughter long gone. Emily threw herself into college applications, landing a scholarship to Ohio State for marketing, her future mapped out in glossy brochures. Me? I dreamed bigger, literally. Nights spent poring over Air Force recruiters' pamphlets, the pull of the sky stronger than ever. "You're really doing this?" Emily asked one evening, sprawled on the couch with a bowl of popcorn, her tone a mix of awe and something sharper. "Leaving me here? What if I need you?" I laughed it off, hugging her tight. "You'll be fine. And hey, I'll write from the clouds." But even then, I felt the undercurrent. The way her hugs lingered a beat too long, possessive, like she wasn't ready to let go of being the center. Basic training was my rebirth. Those grueling months in San Antonio where the sun baked your resolve and instructors stripped you down to your core. I thrived on it. The discipline, the camaraderie, the first time I soloed a T6 Texan, the wind rushing past like freedom itself. Letters from Emily came sporadically, giddy updates on frat parties and internship hunts, always with a jab. "Bet you're missing real food up there. Don't crash on my account." I'd write back volumes, pouring out the thrill of formation flights, the bond with my squadron like brothers in arms. She never replied in kind, her notes short, surface level. When I graduated top of my class, I called her first, voice cracking with pride. "Emily, I did it. Wings and all." Silence on the line, then a sigh. "That's great, kiddo. But seriously, what now? You gonna fight wars or just play pretend?" The words landed like a gut punch, but I brushed it off. Family, right? They say things they don't mean. Years blurred after that. Deployments to dusty bases in the Middle East. Missions where split-second decisions meant life or death for crews I barely knew. I rose through the ranks, Major Sarah Thompson, call sign Shadow for how I'd slipped through threats unseen. Each ribbon on my uniform was a story of grit, of nights staring at stars that reminded me of home. Emily visited once during a stateside leave, her city Polish clashing with my flight suit. We toured the base, her eyes wide at the jets, but her comments stung. "Impressive toys, Sarah, but isn't it lonely up there?" All that, nothing. I wanted to scream that it was everything, the rush, the purpose, but instead I smiled, poured her coffee, pretended it didn't hurt. She left with hugs and promises to call more, but the calls dwindled, replaced by holiday cards signed in haste. And now, this trip. Her idea sprung on me during a rare phone catch-up 6 months ago. "Come on, Sarah. You've been grounded too long with that desk job back home. Let's escape. London, shopping, the works. Sisters against the world." I was between assignments, nursing a quiet ache from a recent breakup, the kind where the guy couldn't handle my pilot baggage. Why not? I thought, reconnect, heal the old wounds. But as the plane bucked again, harder this time, sending a tray clattering to the floor, I realized some wounds never close. They just wait for the right storm to rip open. Emily's face pales beside me, her earlier bravado crumbling as the cabin lights flicker. "Sarah?" she whispers, her hand finding mine for real now, clammy and desperate. "This isn't funny anymore." No, it's not. And as the first real alarm chimes in the cockpit, inaudible to us but vibrating through my bones like an old friend, I know the conflict we've carried for years is about to collide with something far bigger. A storm not just outside, but one that will force us to face the truths we've both hidden. But before the chaos swallows us, let's rewind a bit further, to the flight that started it all wrong. That flight from JFK, the one where the universe seemed to conspire against us from the moment we stepped into the terminal. It was supposed to be simple: grab coffee, board, sip wine at cruising altitude while Emily plotted our itinerary like the pro she was. But nothing with us ever stayed simple, did it? The line at security snaked longer than expected, tempers flaring under the fluorescent buzz, and Emily, ever the impatient one, started tapping her foot, sighing dramatically. "This is why I hate traveling with you, Sarah. You always pick the slow lane." I bit back a retort, juggling my carry-on stuffed with dog-eared novels and a neck pillow I'd bought just for this, my concession to relaxing, as she called it. Truth was, I hadn't flown commercial in years, not since that last family reunion that ended in tears and slammed doors. The Air Force had spoiled me with charters and precision. Not this cattle call chaos. We finally cleared, shoes in hand, dignity in tatters, and made a beeline for Gate 27. The airport hummed with life, announcements droning, families hugging hellos and goodbyes, the scent of pretzels and perfume mingling in the air. Emily spotted a duty-free shop and dragged me in, her eyes lighting up at the perfumes. "Pick one," she said, spritzing samples like a kid in a candy store. "Something to make you smell less like jet fuel." I laughed despite myself, but it felt forced, the old pattern kicking in. She chose a floral balm for herself, all confidence and allure, while I opted for nothing, content with my plain soap and water self. At the gate, we claimed our seats, hers by the window, mine in the middle, a burly guy named Tom on the aisle, already buried in his tablet. Emily claimed the view immediately, snapping selfies with the tarmac behind her. "Adventure awaits." She captioned one, tagging me before I could protest. I smiled for the camera, but inside, doubt gnawed. Was this really adventure or just another stage for her show? Boarding was a zoo, priority passengers shoving past, parents wrangling toddlers, the flight attendant's smiles straining at the edges. We shuffled on, stowing bags in overhead bins that mocked my 5'4" frame. Emily, taller and bolder, helped with hers, then turned to me with exaggerated patience. "Here, let me. Wouldn't want you straining something." The jab landed soft, but it stung, a reminder of how she always positioned herself as the helper, the savior. Settled in, the safety demo played on screens, oxygen masks, life vests, the rote dance we all ignored. I watched anyway, habit from the skies, my mind drifting to briefings where the stakes were real, not hypothetical. Emily scrolled her phone, texting furiously, probably updating her followers on our epic escape. "Who are you telling?" I asked, leaning over. She shrugged. "Friends? Jealous already?" And there it was, the undercurrent. Her life a highlight reel I could never match. Takeoff was smooth, the thrust pressing us back as New York shrank below, a glittering puzzle of lights giving way to inky ocean. Emily ordered champagne, "To us!" and clinked her plastic flute against my ginger ale. For a moment it felt right, the hum of ascent lulling us into chatter. She talked about work, her big pitch coming up, how the boss called her a rising star. I nodded, genuinely happy for her, sharing bits of my own world, the community flights I'd started teaching after leaving active duty, the kids' eyes widening when they gripped the yoke for the first time. "Sounds cute," she said, her tone polite but distant. "But exhausting." I could never. The compliment twisted into comparison, as always. Why couldn't she just say, "I'm proud of you"? Instead, it was this dance, her stepping on my toes while pretending to lead. As we leveled off, the cabin settled into that false calm, meals wheeled out, movies flickering on backs of seats. Emily dove into hers, some rom-com with laugh tracks that grated on my nerves. I tried to read, but her commentary pulled me in. "Look at that guy, total U-type." "Boring but reliable." I shot her a look. "What's that supposed to mean?" She grinned, unrepentant. "Nothing. Just saying you deserve some fun. All work and no play makes Sarah a dull pilot." The word dull hung there, a pebble in my shoe. I turned away, pretending to nap, but sleep wouldn't come. Instead, memories flooded. That time in college, when she borrowed my essay for a class we shared, submitting it as her own and getting the A while I scraped a B. It was basically the same, she'd shrugged when confronted. Or the boyfriend she'd stolen in high school, the one I'd confided in about my fears, only for her to swoop in with her charm. "He was never yours," she'd said later, as if that erased the ache. The first bout of chop hit then, mild at first, like driving over potholes. Emily paused her movie, frowning. Hate this part." I felt it too, that instinctive tension in my shoulders, but I kept cool. "It's nothing. Just air pockets." She eyed me skeptically. Says the expert. "Remember that story you told about your first rough landing? Nearly lost it, right?" It wasn't rough. It was a textbook crosswind recovery, but she twisted it, as always, into failure. The plane dipped again, harder, and a few passengers shifted uneasily. Tom grunted, closing his tablet. Emily leaned into me, whispering, "Okay, now I'm glad you're here. Don't let me down, hero." Sarcasm laced her words, but there was a plea underneath, a crack in her armor. I squeezed her hand, surprising us both. "Never," I murmured. But as the turbulence built, the captain's voice returned, tighter now. "We're experiencing some mechanical issues. Please stay calm." Mechanical? My blood ran cold. Engines, hydraulics, something vital giving way. The cabin stirred, whispers turning to murmurs, a child's cry piercing the din. Emily's grip tightened, her nails digging in. Sarah, what does that mean? Fear edged her voice, the mockery from earlier forgotten in the rising dread. I scanned the space, exits, masks, the faces around us paling one by one. 300 souls, give or take, strapped into this tin can hurtling through nothingness. And me, with skills rusting from desk days, but still sharp enough to sense the unraveling. This wasn't just conflict between sisters. It was the universe piling on, forcing us to confront the fractures. Her taunts echoed in my head, fueling a quiet resolve. If we were going down, it wouldn't be because I froze. But as the lights dimmed and a shudder ripped through the frame, I wondered, could I really pull us through? Or would this be the betrayal that broke us for good? The answers lay in the storm ahead, but first we had to survive the fall. That fall, when the plane didn't just shake, it betrayed us, the way Emily had so many times before, sudden and without mercy. The shudder turned violent, a bone-deep vibration that rattled teeth and spilled drinks across trays. Screams erupted now, raw and real, as oxygen masks deployed like yellow petals in a blizzard, dangling tauntingly from the ceiling. Chaos bloomed, passengers fumbling straps, a woman in the row ahead hyperventilating into her hands, Tom cursing under his breath as he yanked his mask down. Emily froze beside me, her face a mask of horror, eyes wide like saucers. Sarah, what's happening? Her voice cracked, high and childlike, stripping away the years of poise. I snapped into motion, muscle memory overriding the panic clawing at my chest. Masks first, I said, calm as I could manage, pulling mine over her head before securing my own. The rubber pinched, the air hissing plasticky, but it grounded me. Breathe slow. In through nose, out through mouth. The intercom crackled again, the first officer this time. Captain must be busy up front. Ladies and gentlemen, we've lost an engine. Preparing for emergency descent. Crew, brace positions. Lost an engine. At this height over water, my mind raced through protocols. The emergency checklists I'd recited in my sleep. Fuel imbalance, bird strike, mechanical failure. The plane banked sharply left, gravity pulling like a cruel hand, and the cabin tilted, belongings sliding in a cascade of laptops and pillows. Emily clutched my arm, her earlier confidence shattered. This can't be real. Sarah, fix it. You're the pilot! There it was, the plea wrapped in accusation, her words tumbling out in a rush. You always act like you know everything up here. Do something. I wanted to snap back, to throw her mockery in her face, the way she'd belittled my career over dinners, dismissed my deployments as glorified bus rides in texts, rolled her eyes at my flight stories like they were tall tales. But anger would wait. Survival wouldn't. Stay put, I told her, unbuckling despite the no seatbelt chime blaring. The aisle was a war zone, stewards staggering toward the front, a toddler wailing in his mother's lap. I pushed forward, steadying myself on seats, ignoring the shouts of, "Sit down." My uniform was gone, but the training wasn't. Reaching the galley, I caught a flight attendant's eye. Young, terrified, her name tag reading Lisa. What happened? I asked, voice low but firm. She gasped, recognizing the authority in my tone. Bird strike on takeoff. Engine 2's out. Captain's on radio with ATC, but hydraulics are failing. We can't hold altitude, bird strike. Classic nightmare. Geese or gulls sucked into the intake, blades shredding, fire maybe. I nodded, mind whirring. Get the crew briefed. Evac slides ready at both ends. And find me a way to the cockpit. She hesitated, then nodded, radioing it in. Back at my seat, Emily was hyperventilating, tears streaking her mascara. You left me! What if... I cut her off, buckling her tighter. I didn't leave. I'm helping. Trust me, for once. The words hung heavy, laced with the bitterness I'd swallowed for years. Trust. That's what this was about, wasn't it? The sister who'd promised forever but chipped away at my confidence like a sculptor gone mad. Remember prom night? When she accidentally spilled punch on my dress, leaving me to borrow hers, too long, too flashy, while she shone in mine, shorter and fitted just right. Oops, she'd giggled to our friends. Sarah's got that tomboy vibe anyway. Or the job interview I'd prepped for weeks, only for her to network me out of it with a casual call to her contact, landing it for herself. You'll find something better, she'd said, hugging me like it erased the theft. The plane dove now, nose pitching down in a controlled spiral, ears popping painfully. 300 lives hung in this aluminum tube, each face flashing in my periphery, the elderly couple clutching rosaries, the businessman praying silently, a young dad shielding his kids with his body. And Emily, my betrayer in blood, whispering apologies now. I'm sorry, Sarah, for the jokes. For everything. I didn't mean... But she did mean it. Every dig a brick in the wall between us. The betrayal wasn't just the taunts. It was the pattern. The way she'd shine by dimming me, stealing my light to fuel her own. As a kid, I'd idolized her, copied her mannerisms, even dyed my hair her shade once. But over time, it became clear. She needed me small to feel big. You're my rock, she'd say during her breakdowns, leaning on me after bad dates or work flops only to pull away when she was steady, mocking my stability as boring. Another lurch, and the wing dipped alarmingly. Sparks? No, flames? Flickering outside the window. Gasps turned to shrieks, the air thick with fear sweat and ozone. Lisa reappeared, urgent. Cockpit says you can come up. But hurry, the controls are sluggish. I glanced at Emily, her face ashen. I'll be back, brace, she nodded, tears flowing freely. Don't you dare leave me. The irony burned, her clinging now, after years of pushing. I made my way forward, weaving through legs and arms, whispering calm to those I passed. Deep breaths. We're trained for this. The cockpit door loomed, reinforced steel, and the co-pilot waved me in. Mid-40s, sweat beading on his brow, hands dancing over yokes. Captain Older focused on dials. You military? He barked. I nodded. F-16s, 8 years. Relief washed his face. Good. Engine fires out, but we've got asymmetric thrust. Can't climb and descent's too fast. Your eyes on this. The panel glowed chaotic. Warning lights winking like malevolent stars. Altimeter spinning downward. 25,000 feet and dropping. Over the Atlantic, no fields for ditch, just cold waves waiting. My heart hammered, but focus sharpened, the old thrill mixing with terror. Compensate with rudder, I said, pointing. Trim for level. He adjusted, the plane steadying fractionally. Radio crackled. ATC vectors, emergency strips in Ireland maybe. But time was the enemy, bleeding away in seconds. Emily's face flashed, scared, sorry, and with it, the rage I'd buried. This betrayal, this flight, it was the culmination. She'd mocked my skills, my life, reducing years of sweat and sacrifice to punchlines. But now? Now those skills were all that stood between life and the abyss. As we fought the beast, wrestling controls like Jacob with the angel, I realized the true sting. Her doubt in me was the deepest cut, deeper than any lost promotion or stolen spotlight. Hold her steady, the captain grunted, sweat dripping. I did, fingers itching for a stick that wasn't there. Questions swirled. Would we make land? Would Emily ever see me, really see me? The betrayal peaked in that cockpit crush, her taunts a ghost urging me on. But revenge? It simmered not in spite but in proof. I'd save them all, her included, and in the doing expose the lie she'd lived by. That we'd survive to face it. But as the horizon tilted wild, alarms blaring, I wondered if the cost would be too high. Too high, with the altimeter screaming 10,000 feet, and the ocean a dark mirror below, mocking our fragility. The cockpit was a pressure cooker, beeps and bells assaulting the ears, the captain's voice a steady anchor amid the storm. Gear check, he ordered, and I complied, flipping switches, my hands steady despite the adrenaline tsunami. Emily's betrayal looped in my mind like a bad reel. Not just the plane taunts, but the lifetime of little erosions, each one a stone in my pocket weighing me down. That time she forgot to tell me about Dad's birthday dinner, showing up solo with her new boyfriend, charming the family while I arrived late, empty-handed and sidelined. You were flying, right? No biggie, she'd shrugged later as if my schedule was her excuse. Or the apartment hunt in our 20s, when she convinced me to co-sign her lease, then bailed after 6 months, leaving me with the rent and an eviction scare. I needed space, she'd said, tears in her eyes, guilting me into forgiveness. Always the victim, always me the fool. But here in this hurtling coffin, wrath stirred. Not blind hate, but a focused fire, the kind that forges steel from scrap. I'd use it, channel every slight into action. Flaps 20, I called, watching the gauges. The plane groaned in response, slowing our plunge, buying precious minutes. Co-pilot radioed updates. Mayday confirmed, Shannon on standby. His voice cracking for the first time. Outside, lightning forked the clouds, illuminating the damaged wing in stark relief, metal-scarred but holding. 300 souls aft, their fates tethered to our hands. Lisa banged on the door, slipping in a note. Cabin panic rising. Need reassurance? I scrawled back, tell them we're diverting. Hero in charge. A white lie, but hope's a drug we all craved. Slipping back to Emily, the aisle a gauntlet of wide eyes and whimpers, I knelt by her. She looked small, curled fetal, mask fogging with sobs. Sarah, I thought you were gone. Her hand reached, trembling. I took it, the warmth a lifeline. Not yet. We're turning for Ireland. Hold on. Her eyes searched mine, raw vulnerability cracking her facade. I'm so scared. All those stupid things I said? I was jealous, okay? Of your strength, your stories. I acted like it was nothing because it hurt how much you have. The confession hung, a bridge over our chasm. Jealous of me? The words unlocked something, a flood of memories where I'd felt her shadows, not seen my own light. But wrath whispered, too late for sorries. Prove it now. Back in the cockpit, the plan crystallized. Not just fly, but command. Captain, let me go, I said. He eyed me, then nodded. You're up. The yoke felt foreign, civilian smooth, but familiar enough. I trimmed, countered the drag, the plane responding like an old lover, reluctant but willing. Wrath fueled precision. Every jab from Emily a push on the pedals, every doubt a pull on the stick. We'd make it, expose her underestimation, shut down the narrative she'd spun. But doubt crept. What if I failed? What if my rust showed? The captain sensed it. You've got this, Major. Seen worse? I nodded, throat tight. Sandstorm ejections. Lost a wingman once. The memory stabbed. Young kid, call sign buzz, gone in a flash of flame. I'd pulled the squadron home, but the guilt lingered, a scar. Turbulence battered us anew, the frame creaking like old bones. Alarms wailed, low fuel, cabin pressure dropping. Masks stayed on, air thinning, headaches blooming. Emily's face haunted. Would she survive to apologize fully? Or was this my revenge silent and swift? No, justice meant life, all of us breathing land's air. Vector 270, ATC crackled, guiding us to Shannon. Coast in sight, a green smudge against black sea. But flames licked the engine again, heat shimmering the glass. Extinguishers? I barked. Co-pilot deployed, foam hissing. It bought time, but the smell seeped in. Burnt oil, acrid promise of doom. Passengers' cries filtered forward, a chorus of desperation. I imagined them. The mom teaching her son to pray, the couple vowing forever in whispers, Tom clutching his wedding ring, and Emily rethinking every laugh at my expense. The betrayal deepened. She'd mocked not just me, but this, the core of who I was. Fighter pilot wasn't a hobby. It was salvation, pulling me from grief's pit after Mom. Emily knew that, yet weaponized it. Wrath hardened. I'd save her, yes, but she'd witnessed the truth, left speechless by the woman she'd diminished. Altitude stabilized at 5,000, runway lights piercing the gloom like beacons. Gear down, I commanded, levers clunking. Winds sheared, crosswind a devil's breath. The plane skidded on approach, tires screeching premature. Hold it, I urged silently, muscles aching. Emily's jealousy confession echoed. Maybe she'd always seen my strength, feared it. The runway rushed up, foam trucks lining like soldiers. Touchdown jarred, brakes smoking, reverse thrust roaring. We slowed, stopped, the beast tamed. Crew erupted in cheers, hugs sloppy with relief. But as stairs rolled up, fire crews swarming, I unbuckled, legs jelly. Emily waited in the cabin, first off, throwing arms around me. You did it. My hero. Tears mixed with mine, but wrath lingered, a ember. The rescue was the plan's spark. Now, the real revenge brewed in the aftermath, where words would cut deeper than wind. We'd landed, but the storm between us? Just beginning? Beginning with the decontamination tents on the rain-slicked tarmac at Shannon, where emergency lights cast long shadows and medics in hazmat suits herded us like sheep from a pen. The air bit cold, Irish mist clinging to skin, a far cry from the tropical hells I'd known. Emily stuck to me like glue, her arm looped through mine, chattering to mask the shakes. Can you believe it? We almost... God, Sarah, you're incredible. Her voice wobbled, gratitude thick. but I felt the underlayer. The way her eyes darted, already rewriting the narrative for her social feed. A quick pic of the plane captioned "Close Call." Thanks to my sis, the superhero are blessed. No mention of the mocks, the build-up. Wrath simmered low, not quenched by survival. This wasn't over. The betrayal demanded more than hugs. Medics checked us. Pulse, lungs, the rote questions. Any pain? Dizziness? Emily milked it, dramatic sighs and hand-to-forehead poses, drawing sympathetic coos from the staff. Me? I waved them off, mind elsewhere, strategizing. Revenge wasn't destruction. It was revelation, exposing her patterns so brightly she couldn't hide. Step 1, the debrief. Officials would question, logs reviewed, my input key. I'd downplay nothing. Not the bird, not the controls, certainly not how civilian heroism bridged the gap. Let the world see Major Thompson, not Sarah the worrywart. Bus to a holding hotel, cozy, firelit lounge smelling of tea and toast. We collapsed in lobby armchairs, blankets draped like capes. News crews lurked outside, flashes popping. Emily perked up. We should talk to them. Our story, it'll go viral. Ambition gleamed, the old her resurfacing. I shook my head. Later, rest first. But rest evaded, adrenaline's ghost pacing my veins. Around us, passengers swapped tales. The dad who'd sung lullabies to his kids, the grandma who'd recited Bible verses. Bonds formed in crisis, fragile but real. Emily tried joining, but her laughs rang false, eyes on her phone. Likes are pouring in, she whispered. Everyone's asking about you. That night, room service trays half-eaten, we faced off on twin beds, the hum of the heater underscoring silence. Talk, I said, voice even. She blinked, feigning innocence. About what? The jealousy? The jabs? Why, Emily? After everything, tears welled, practiced. I don't know. You were always so capable. Mom saw it, Dad too. I felt invisible next to you. Invisible? The word ignited memories, her spotlight hogging family photos, her stories dominating dinners. You stole that from me, I countered. Made me doubt myself to feel better. She sobbed then, real or not, curling into pillows. I'm sorry, change me? Please, but apologies were cheap. Strategy demanded proof. Next days blurred, investigations, statements. I met the captain over coffee, his handshake firm. You saved our hides, Major. Brass wants a full report. I detailed it meticulously, emphasizing split decisions, the calm under fire. Word spread. Calls came from old squadron mates, toasts raised in bars across bases. Emily tagged along to interviews, her role supportive sister. But I steered narratives, slipping in our backstory. The mocks turned to motivation. Her doubt pushed me, I'd say, smiling for cameras. Subtle exposure letting her see the shift. Wrath evolved, not vengeance, but vindication. I planned deeper. Post-crisis therapy sessions, mandatory for crew, but I'd invite her. Unpack the roots, force mirrors. And publicly, a book pitch simmered, or TED Talk. Sisters and Skies, betrayal to breakthrough. Her face at mentions. Priceless discomfort cracking her polish. But first, the family call. Dad, voice gravelly from the line. Proud of you, girl. Both. Emily chimed in, but I heard the hitch, her throne wobbling. Nights alone I journaled. Every slight cataloged, not for hate, but healing. The reckoning wasn't tearing down. It was building up, me first. Emily knocked once, hesitant. Can we talk more? I let her in, but on my terms. Actions, not words. She nodded, eyes down. The plane's shadow loomed, a catalyst. 300 souls owed their breath to buried skills. Now my sister would owe truth. But as dawn broke over Emerald Hills, strategy solidified. The climax waited in home soil, where old patterns met new resolve. Would she rise or resist? The plot thickened, pulling us toward confrontation. Confrontation back in Ohio, weeks later, when the adrenaline faded and reality's weight settled like dew on grass. Home felt smaller. The old Victorian on Elm creaking under autumn leaves, Dad's truck in the drive, the swing set long rotted but etched in memory. Emily and I drove from the airport in silence, her rental car humming hymns to normalcy. Media frenzy had peaked, headlines screaming "Hero Sister Saves Flight," my face on CNN, interviews booked solid. Emily played sidekick, smiling for shots. But privately, Barb's slipped. Don't let it go to your head, she'd mutter over hotel breakfasts. Wrath, banked but hot, flared. Strategy shifted. Ignite the flames controlled, burn away the facade. First stop, Dad's. He enveloped us in bear hugs, eyes misty. My girls, safe. Dinner was pot roast, his specialty, steam rising like peace offerings. Conversation danced light, weather, neighbors, but undercurrents swirled. Emily dominated, recounting the flight with flourishes, her as the brave co-passenger. I kept everyone calm, you know? Held hands, passed tissues. I let her, fork pausing until Dad turned to me. And you, Sarah? Heard you flew that beast down. Simple words, but they pierced. I shrugged. Team effort. But Emily interjected, laughing. Oh, she was amazing. Like in the movies, patronizing the old tone. Fire licked. Later, washing dishes, she cornered me. Jealous much? Dad's all over you now. They're the spark. Jealous? Of what, Em? Your habit of stealing thunder? Voice low, controlled. She bristled. Stealing? I built you up! Without my pushes, you'd still be hiding. Laughter bitter. Pushes? You mean shoves off cliffs? The dam cracked. Words poured. The essay theft, the boyfriend poach, the endless diminutions. You made me small so you could shine. She fired back, tears weaponized. And you? Always the victim, the strong, silent type. Mom loved me more anyway. Lie, but it stung, flames roaring. Dad interrupted, sensing storm. Enough. Life's short. But the ignition was lit. Next days, I dove into public life, school visits where kids mobbed me with drawings of planes, eyes wide. Did you save your sister too? One asked. Everyone, I replied, meaning it. Emily tagged, but wilted in shadows, her agency job on hold for family time. Calls from her boss. Great exposure, Em. Leverage it. She tried, pitching Sisters Survive campaigns, but I countered with my own. Workshops on sibling dynamics, betrayal's toll. Subtle reckoning, her empire cracking. Climax brewed at the town hall gala. Honor for me, key to the city. Spotlight hot, Emily beside, dress shimmering. Speeches flowed, mine last. This isn't about one flight, I began, voice steady. It's about doubts we carry from those closest. My sister mocked me that day, called my skills pretend. But in crisis, those pretends became real. Gasps rippled. Emily stiffened, smile frozen. It hurt, but it fueled me. Betrayal isn't end, it's catalyst. Applause thundered, but her face, pale, exposed, was the true win. Backstage, she confronted. How could you? In public? Wrath peaked, calm. Truth, Em. You started it. She crumbled then, sobs racking. I hate this. Hate seeing you soar. Hug followed, raw. Flames banked, not out. Justice and vulnerability, her walls down. 300 souls echoes and cheers outside. But as confetti fell, I wondered, was reckoning enough? Or did embers wait for more as winter gripped Maplewood, snow blanketing the scars like forgiveness unearned? The gala's afterglow faded, replaced by quiet battles. Emily's distance, her late nights at work, texts curt. Busy. Talk soon. Strategy evolved, not chase, but stand firm, let the tempest rage till it broke. Holiday loomed, first without Mom, the weight heavier post-flight. Dad planned small, tree trimming, eggnog by fire. Emily showed reluctant, eyes shadowed. Don't want to intrude, she said at door, coat clutched. Intrude? On what was hers, too. Fire rekindled. Tree lights twinkled, ornaments dusted with memory. Mom's angel, Dad's chipped ball. We strung silently, old rituals awkward. Emily placed the star, tiptoeing, then turned. Remember when we fought over this? You cried, soft, probing. I nodded. You won. Always did. Pause heavy. Not always. Her voice small. Tempest brewed in that admission, winds of old hurts howling. Dinner cracked it open. Turkey carved, stories swapped. Dad reminisced Mom's laughs, her pie disasters. Emily teared. She'd be proud of you, Sarah, the hero. But tone twisted, envy peaking. I set fork down. And you? She'd see your heart, too, if you let her. Challenge hung. She pushed plate. Easy for you. Miss Perfect saving planes. There, the stand. Not perfect. Hurt. By you. Dad cleared throat, but we plunged. Every joke, every steal, it chipped me. The flight? Your mocks almost cost us focus, she recoiled. I apologized. Words, show me. Night deepened, fire crackling. Emily paced, unraveling. Fine. Truth? I feared losing you to the sky. Mom died, Dad distant, you were mine. So I kept you close, small. Revelation struck like lightning, illuminating. Not malice, fear. My stand softened. You didn't lose me. You pushed. Hug came fierce, sobs shared. Tempest peaked, winds dying to whispers. Media called, documentary offer, our story. Emily hesitated. Together? Yes, Stan became Bridge, her agency pitching joint ventures. 300 souls gratitude letters piled, reminders of cost. Climax in unity, her apology public, my forgiveness voiced. Flames to warmth, but as snow fell, I felt the core. Stand wasn't win, but growth. Emily's hand in mine, swinging where Set once stood. Tempest past, clear skies ahead, the kind that stretch endless after a brutal storm, where the first rays of sun kiss the scars and turn them into something almost beautiful. It was early spring when Emily and I finally stepped off that emotional ledge we'd been teetering on for months, the snow melting into mud under our boots as we walked the old paths around Maplewood. The air smelled of wet earth and possibility, that sharp tang that says winter's grip is loosening, just like the hold our old resentments had on us. We'd survived the flight, sure, the metal bird brought to ground, 300 hearts still beating in rhythm with the relief of solid earth. But the real deliverance? That came slower, in the quiet hours after the headlines faded, when the cameras stopped flashing and it was just us. Two sisters picking up the pieces of a bond we'd nearly let crash and burn. It started small. Deliberate steps we took, like learning to walk again after a long illness. Weekly calls turned into a ritual. No more surface chit-chat about weather or work deadlines, but real talks, the kind that peeled back layers until you hit bone. No jabs allowed, I'd remind her at the start of each one, my voice firm but laced with that fragile hope we both clung to. She'd laugh, a soft, self-aware chuckle that was new, not her old sharp-edged one. Promise. Scout's honor. And for the first time, I believed her. We'd meet halfway sometimes, driving to a neutral spot like the diner on the edge of town, the one Mom used to love for its greasy spoons and bottomless coffee. Sitting in a booth scarred by years of initials carved with butter knives, we'd unpack it all, the flight's terror replayed in whispers, her confessions spilling out like rain from a clogged gutter. I see now, she'd say one afternoon, stirring sugar into her mug until it dissolved into a sweet whirlpool, her eyes fixed on the steam rising like ghosts of old arguments. Your strength scared me, Sarah. From the day you pinned that first flight badge on your jacket, all shiny and proud, I felt small. Like if you flew too high, you'd leave me grounded forever. Her voice cracked on the last word, and I reached across the table, covering her hand with mine. The touch was electric, a bridge of warmth over the cold Atlantic we'd crossed in fear. Jealousy, she'd admitted in those therapy sessions we started together. Neutral ground with a counselor who didn't flinch at family skeletons rattling in the closet. Words unearthed roots like weeds in a neglected garden, pulling up the tangled mess of Mom's death. How Emily had thrown herself into popularity to numb the ache while I'd buried mine in flight logs and solo runs. You grieved quiet, the therapist said, her notebook filling with our truths. She grieved loud, and that loudness became a shield, hiding the fear that you'd soar away without looking back. Deliverance crept in through those cracks, honesty the sunlight that coaxed new growth. Publicly, the waves from the flight kept cresting, pulling us along in their swell. The book deal came first, a quiet email from a publisher who'd seen the news clips, their words glowing on my screen like runway lights. Your story isn't just survival, it's sisterhood forged in fire. We signed it together, Wings of Betrayal, the title a nod to the cockpit chaos and the deeper wounds we'd inflicted on each other. Chapters wove the flight's raw panic with our family fractures, the taunts on the plane mirroring years of subtle sabotages, the emergency descent echoing how we'd let grudges pull us down. Launches were packed houses, folding chairs scraping against community center floors, faces from the flight filling the front rows. Emily stood beside me, equal at last, her name on the posters in bold, co-author. No more sidekick. She owned her part, the mocker turned muse. Hugs came tight at those signings, arms wrapping around us like lifelines tossed from shore. You saved us, a young mom would say, her toddler clinging to her leg, eyes wide with the memory of masks dangling like forgotten promises. That voice over the intercom, steady as a rock. I'd smile, throat tight, and nod to Emily. And her. She kept me fighting. It wasn't exaggeration. In the quiet of those post-panic nights, I'd replay her grip on my arm, her whispered, "Don't leave me," and realize it was the anchor that kept my hands from shaking on the yoke. One passenger, the businessman Tom from our row, brought a bottle of Irish whiskey, toasting us with a grin. To sisters who mock and save in the same breath. "You're both legends," Emily blushed, unaccustomed to sharing the glow, but she raised her glass, eyes meeting mine in a silent vow. No more dimming each other's light. Back home, Dad beamed through it all, his pride a quiet force like the steady hum of his old truck engine. Barbecues in the backyard became our new tradition, smoke curling from the grill, ribs sticky with sauce, laughter bubbling freer than before. He'd watch us from his lawn chair, a beer sweating in his hand, and murmur, "Like old times, but better." Your mom would have loved this. She would have, her spirit in the way Emily now asked about my community flights. Genuinely curious, no undercurrent of dismissal. "Tell me about that kid who soloed today," she'd say, passing the potato salad, and I'd spin the tale, her nods deep and real. Sisters mended, not perfect, but patched with care, the seams stronger for the tears. Trips followed, joint adventures that rewrote our shared history. The London redo was first, same route, different hearts. Boarding the plane this time, Emily's hand found mine before the seatbelt clicked, her squeeze saying what words couldn't. I remember. No taunts echoed in the cabin. Instead, awe filled the spaces between us. As the engines whined to life, she leaned over, whispering, "Listen to that. It's singing." And it was. A song of second chances. We wandered cobblestone streets hand in hand, no itineraries dictating our pace, just the rhythm of rediscovery. Pubs with fiddles wailing, markets bursting with colors, and nights where we'd collapse on hotel beds, giggling over jet-lag confessions. Plane hums comforted now, shared glances across aisles grateful, a shorthand for "we're here together." Revenge. That simmering pot from the cockpit days, resolved not in ashes but in redemption. Her exposed vulnerabilities met with my open arms, me elevated not above her but alongside. Justice balanced on the scale of forgiveness, tipping toward grace. The 300 lives we'd pulled from the brink became touchstones, emails and cards arriving like ripples from that one stone skipped across the sea. "Your story gave me courage to mend fences with my own sibling," one wrote, and I'd read it aloud to Emily, her eyes softening. One bond renewed, but echoes in hundreds more. But deeper still, the true deliverance bloomed in the self I'd reclaimed. No more shadows cast by her doubts, no lingering flinch at old jabs. Full flight meant owning my wings, not just in the sky but on the ground, where every step felt lighter, every breath deeper. Emily saw it too, one evening as we swung on the new swing set Dad had built, simple ropes and a plank echoing our girlhood swings. "You're different," she said, toes digging into dirt. "Brighter," I smiled, pushing off gently. "We both are. That's the dawn. After the dark, it comes for everyone who dares to look up." And as the sun dipped low, painting the horizon in golds and pinks, I felt it settle. Healing wasn't erasure, but evolution. The storm had passed, leaving us wiser, closer, ready for whatever clouds gathered next. But what of the lessons etched in those vapor trails, the ones that whisper long after the engines fade? They wait just beyond, in the quiet reflection that ties it all together, those echoes lingering like the faint contrails that fade but never fully vanish. Reminders that every turbulence shapes the journey ahead. Months turned to a year after that fateful flight. And as I sit here now, journal open on my lap under the wide Ohio sky, I can't help but trace the threads back to that cabin taunt, the one that started as a spark of hurt and bloomed into a blaze that reshaped everything. Emily and I? We're not the same girls who boarded that plane, strapped in with grudges and unspoken fears. We're something forged stronger. Sisters who mock with love now, not malice, who lift each other toward horizons we once viewed as rivals. The scars remain, faint lines on our hearts like stretch marks from growth too rapid to contain. But they're badges, not burdens. Proof we survived not just the drop in altitude, but the deeper plunge into truths we'd avoided for too long. Looking back, the real climax wasn't the touchdown on that foam-strewn runway, the cheers erupting as wheels kissed tarmac and fire trucks wailed in salute. No, it was the quieter peaks, the moments when Emily's walls finally crumbled, brick by jealous brick, and mine rose not in defense but in quiet confidence. Remember the holiday after, that first Christmas post-storm? The house decked in lights that twinkled like stars we'd once chased from the backyard, but this time, no undercurrents of comparison poisoning the eggnog. Emily arrived early, arms laden with gifts she'd wrapped herself, sloppy edges but heartfelt, a far cry from her old perfectionist flair. "For you," she said, handing me a small box, her eyes darting away shyly. Inside, a silver pilot's wing pin, engraved with our initials intertwined. "To remind you, you're not flying solo anymore." Tears pricked then, hot and unexpected, and I pinned it to my sweater right there, the metal cool against my skin. Dad caught it, his gruff voice thick. "That's my girls." We sang carols off-key, her voice harmonizing with mine for the first time without overshadowing. And as midnight tolled, we clinked mugs under mistletoe, not for show, but for the sheer joy of being whole. The echoes reached further, rippling into lives beyond our little circle. Those 300 souls from the flight. They became our unintended family, a constellation connected by that one desperate dive. Reunion invites flooded in. First a small gathering in Shannon, Ireland, where accents mingled thick as the Guinness and stories flowed freer than the Shannon River. Emily and I flew over together, hands linked during takeoff, her squeeze a talisman against old phantoms. Faces lit up as we entered the pub, hugs enveloping us like warm fog. "The Hero Sisters!" Someone toasted and Emily raised her glass, but this time she pulled me forward. "We're both." She flew. I learned. Laughter followed, genuine. And tales tumbled out. The grandma who'd clutched her rosary and prayed for, the girl in the middle seat with the steady voice, the dad who'd vowed to teach his kids resilience after seeing mine. One by one, they shared how our story, leaked in news bites and book pages, had sparked their own mendings, siblings reconciling over long-buried slights, families gathering after years of drift. "You showed us crisis isn't the end," Tom said, the businessman from our row, his arm around his wife. "It's the forge." And in those words, I heard the moral taking shape. Betrayal, left unchecked, plummets you. Faced head-on, it lifts you higher. But the deepest lesson? It whispers in the solitude of flight. When I'm up there again, yoke in hand during one of my community lessons, a wide-eyed teen gripping the co-pilot seat as we bank toward the clouds. "What if I mess up?" they'll ask, voice small against the engine's roar. I'll smile, pointing to the horizon. Messing up isn't failing, it's fuel. My sister mocked me once, thought my skills were pretend. That hurt became the push to prove her wrong. And right. Wrong about my doubts, right about the bond that outlasts them. The kid nods, eyes alight, and as we level out, the world below shrinks to puzzles we can solve together. Eternity's echoes teach that revenge isn't a destination. It's a detour, one that circles back to justice only if you choose grace over grudge. Shut down the cycle of dimming. Expose the light in each other instead. For in families, the storms rage fiercest because the loves run deepest. Betrayals sting like lightning because the trusts were thunderous. Emily gets it now, lives it in ways small and profound. Her agency's campaigns shifted, sisterhood themes, ads with taglines like "Rise Together," inspired by our book. She calls mid-pitch sometimes, voice buzzing, "Nailed it thanks to you." And when doubts creep for her, a client lost, a date gone sour, she doesn't hide. She leans in just as I do for her. Last week, over coffee in that same diner, she slid a new book across the table, her solo memoir, Shadows to Spotlights, dedicated to me, to Sarah, who taught me to share the stage. I read the first chapter aloud, her head on my shoulder, and felt the full circle, from mockery in the clouds to harmony on the ground. As for me, the Air Force calls less now, consulting gigs, safety seminars where I recount that day not as trauma, but triumph. Anger fueled the fight, I tell audiences, their faces rapt. But relief sealed the peace. Hold on to that. Sadness lingers for the what-ifs, the wing we lost, the fears we fed. But shock has softened to wisdom, justice a quiet satisfaction. The moral undertone hums like a distant engine. In the vast sky of life, betrayals are but pockets of air. Jarring, yes, but navigable with heart and hindsight. Choose the path of proof over payback. Let the revenge be in rising, the betrayal a backstory to your breakthrough. We're all pilots in our stories, strapped into cockpits of chaos, but the controls, they're ours. Grip them with grace, and the landing, turbulent or smooth, becomes legend. And so, as I close this journal, the sun dipping low like a wingtip salute, I glance at the phone, Emily's text glowing. "Girls' trip next month?" "Your pick," I type back, smiling. Anywhere but Atlantic. Love you. Sent. Echoes fade, but the lesson lingers eternal. Family's the wildest flight, full of drops and drafts, but oh, the views when you trust the turn. Fly on, unbroken, into whatever dawn awaits.